Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask unanimous consent pursuant to our rules that Spencer Baucus, the ranking member on Financial Services Committee, Kevin Brady of Texas, the ranking House Republican on the Joint Economic Committee, Roy Blunt, the former Majority Whip, Ron Paul, whose credentials on this are well understood, and Cliff Stearns of Florida be allowed to sit on the dais, and should there be time, allowed to ask questions pursuant to the rules.
Without objection.
Additionally, I would ask at this time to submit for the record Schedule A, which is, in fact, the shortfall agreements between Maiden 3 and AIG Financial Products, since they will be referred to in questioning, and we want to make sure they're officially in the record.
Reserving the right to object.
Okay. Additionally, Mr. Chairman, I would ask unanimous consent that the 8 letters previously sent to Secretary Geithner and as of today not responded to also be placed in the record at this time, although they will not be reviewed further during this hearing.
Reserving the right to object.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for all of this and more. Working together with you on the subpoena documents has caused both the majority and minority to glean considerable new information. In recent weeks, this committee receiving these documents have caused us to better understand the New York Fed's pressured AIG to abort negotiations designed to obtain a haircut, as it was called, from its counterparties and keep the details of the counterparties' payments from appearing on the firm's forms at the SEC. Today, one of the questions we will ask is, should the American people be kept from knowing until 2018 the details of who were the ultimate beneficiaries of this bailout? As I have said before, I consider this a backdoor bailout. The people giving us testimony today will tell us that they felt that this was essential and necessary. Mr. Chairman, as you can recall, AIG's founder, Hank Greenberg, has previously testified along with AIG CEO Edward Liddy. And in that testimony, Hank Greenberg made it very clear that he believed that, 1, hedging should have occurred sooner, and 2, bankruptcy would have been a cleaner way to resolve a company in which he is the largest stockholder. I'm proud to say after that hearing, AIG has re-engaged their founder to help them maximize the value of a company that is currently 80% owned by the American people. Not to say that there's a lot of good news at AIG. Mr. Chairman, it's clear that the money paid and it being kept secret may ultimately cause the American people never to be repaid these dollars. I'll try to... Can you hear me okay now? You can't. Okay. Now, okay, I will focus on this microphone this time. Usually the problem is I'm too well heard. Right, Mr. Chairman?
Generally.
Today we will have an opportunity to ask questions, and the American people will have the right, and I believe will receive, straightforward answers. So far, Mr. Chairman, this is what we know. We know that some of today's witnesses played a central role in the decision to bail out AIG rather than allow the normal bankruptcy procedures to run their course. We know that one of today's witnesses made the decision to pay AIG counterparties at 100 cents on the dollar. We know that one of today's witnesses was the primary architect of the AIG trust agreement, whereby the taxpayers' investment in AIG is managed not in the interest of the U.S. taxpayers, but of the United States Treasury Department. That was from previous testimony, and we rely on that to say perhaps that is not the right answer. We know that the New York Fed sought to cover the counterparty payments made possible by the taxpayers' money. We now better understand that the New York Fed transferred their earlier responsibility to the American people after TARP was passed. We know that the New York Fed succeeded in getting the SEC to continue the cover-up until 2018, 10 years from the date the bailout began. And we know that the full amount paid to AIG's counterparties will likely never be repaid to the American people. Some facts, Mr. Chairman, remain unknown or uncertain. Secretary Geithner has claimed publicly that he recused himself from the day-to-day management of New York Fed when the cover-up occurred. In fact, he has asserted complete ignorance of the Fed's efforts to cover up the bailout details. Many people, including members of this committee, have a hard time believing that Secretary Geithner entered into an absolute cone of silence, for those of us old enough to remember what that was, on the day of his nomination was announced. Where was Secretary Geithner for the months and months that backdoor bailouts were being questioned in the media? Did he ever wonder why his decision to pay AIG's counterparty was kept secret for so long? These are the questions the American people deserve. Mr. Chairman, I would ask unanimous consent the remainder of my opening statement be placed in the record at this time.